Welcome to my channel, The World of Science Fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
The shovel bit into sand the color of rust and old bone. Samuel Reed worked without rhythm, without grace. His hands shook. Sweat carved tracks through the dust caking his face, and each breath tasted like copper and exhaustion. The desert stretched in every direction, endless, pitiless, watching. 9 mounds surrounded him in a rough circle, each one low, each one marked with a shard of blue armor, driven into the sand like a headstone, like an accusation. He was digging the 10th. The sun hammered down from a sky bleached white with heat. No clouds, no mercy. Just the relentless press of light against his shoulders, his neck, the back of his skull. His shirt clung to him, soaked through. His knuckles were raw where they'd scraped against stone, hidden beneath the sand. He didn't stop, couldn't stop. 15 years of running, and they'd sent 9 hunters after him, 9 soldiers in blue armor, each one trained to kill, each one carrying orders that left no room for questions. And each one had failed. Not because he'd killed them, because he'd shown them the truth. The shovel struck something solid. Samuel dropped to his knees, clawing at the sand with his bare hands now. His fingernails split. Blood smeared across the pale grains. He didn't care. He had to reach it. Had to. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. The crunch of boots on sand. Samuel's hands froze. He didn't look up. Didn't need to. He knew the sound of a hunter's approach, the weight of armor, the careful, measured pace of someone trained to kill efficiently. The footsteps stopped behind him. Silence pressed down harder than the heat. 15 years they hunted me, Samuel said, his voice raw and cracked. 9 failed. You're on time. I'm finishing the 10th grave for you now. The silence stretched. Then a voice, female, controlled, but with something underneath. Something that might have been uncertainty. Stand up. Turn around. Samuel stayed on his knees, his hands still buried in the sand. Look first, then decide. I said stand. Look at what I'm digging. He heard the shift of weight behind him, heard fabric rustle as she moved closer, angling for a better view, heard the sharp intake of breath when she saw it. The grave was shallow, maybe 3 feet deep, but there was no body. Instead, a child's cup. Cracked ceramic with faded blue patterns. Next to it, a tiny shoe. Canvas, worn through at the toe, sized for a foot no bigger than Samuel's palm. What is this? The voice was harder now, flatter, but the uncertainty was growing. Samuel finally turned. The hunter was tall, blue-skinned, a deep cobalt that shimmered slightly in the harsh light, the mark of the Kashari bloodline. Her armor was scarred but functional, plates strapped tight across her chest and shoulders. Her rifle was aimed at his center mass, perfectly steady. Her eyes weren't. She was young, maybe 25 standard years. Her face was angular, striking, with the high cheekbones and sharp features of the northern clans. Her hair was pulled back in a tight warrior's braid, jet black against the blue of her skin, and she was scared, trying to hide it, doing a decent job. But Samuel had seen enough hunters over 15 years to recognize the signs. The too rigid stance, the white knuckle grip on the rifle, the way her jaw was locked so tight he could see the muscle jumping beneath her skin. Your name, Samuel said. You don't ask questions. You're the target. Your name. She hesitated. Then, Mari, Clan Kashari, 10th Blade Division. Samuel nodded slowly, reached into his pocket. The rifle snapped up, finger tight on the trigger. Easy. He moved deliberately, pulling out a small object. Metal. Tarnished. He tossed it underhand, gentle. Mari caught it one-handed without looking, her eyes never leaving him. Then she glanced down. Her breath stopped. A clan insignia. Crack down the middle. The etched symbol of Kashari, the broken lance, still visible beneath years of corrosion. That's... Her voice died. Turn it over. She did. Scraped at the dirt caked in the grooves on the back. Froze when she saw the name stamp there. Riva Kashari, 9th Blade. My cousin. Mari's voice was barely a whisper. She died 3 years ago. Training accident. They told us. They said they lied. Mari looked up sharply. The rifle was shaking now. Just slightly. You killed her. You killed 9 of my sisters. No. Samuel pointed at the grave, at the cup and the shoe. I buried the ones your commanders erased. From somewhere beneath the collapsed rocks behind him, a sound. Faint. Fragile. A cough. Mari's head whipped toward the sound. Her whole body tensed. What was that? Samuel stood slowly, his hand still visible. Not weapons, not graves. He paused, holding her eyes. Survivors. Another sound. Weaker. A child's voice, thin with dehydration and fear. Mari? Is it really you? The rifle dropped 6 inches. Mari stared at the collapsed rocks, her face blank with shock. That can't be. Go look. If this is a trick, then shoot me and go look anyway. She moved toward the rocks like someone walking through a nightmare. Her rifle still up, still ready, but her focus fracturing. Samuel watched her kneel by the largest collapsed section, where a gap no wider than her fist showed darkness underneath. She leaned close, whispered, "Hello? Mari?" The child's voice again, stronger now, flooding with desperate hope. "Mari, they said you were dead. They said the humans killed you." Mari's hands were shaking so hard the rifle rattled against her armor. Who is this?" "It's Ken. Ken Sora. Don't you remember me?" Mari sat back hard, her legs suddenly unable to hold her weight. "Ken died 5 years ago. The border raid. They showed us bodies. They lied." Another voice now, older, male. "They've been lying for years, Mari. They told us you were dead, that the humans killed you when you tried to protect us." Samuel walked over slowly, careful not to make any sudden moves. "There are 43 people under those rocks. Blue-skinned, human, children, elders, all of them officially dead, all of them inconvenient." Mari looked up at him. Her eyes were pools of confusion and rage and heartbreak. "Why?" "Because they survived the attacks, because they could tell people what really happened at the border. Because..." He stopped, crouched down beside her, lowered his voice. "Because they saw both sides working together." "That's impossible." "Is it?" Samuel gestured at the 9 graves. "Why do you think they keep sending hunters alone? Why do you think none of them ever came back to report?" "Because you killed them. Because they saw the truth and chose not to go home." Mari was breathing hard now, her whole worldview fracturing. "My commander said you were a war criminal, that you murdered entire settlements." A deep rumble cut her off. The ground trembled, just slightly, just enough. Samuel's head snapped up, his eyes scanning the horizon. "How many in your unit?" "What? Your unit? How many?" "I came alone. Standard hunter protocol." "Then who's that?" Mari followed his gaze, went pale. On the ridge to the east, silhouettes against the white sky. Dozens of them. Armored crawlers, massive 8-wheeled vehicles built for desert warfare. Their chassis low and wide. Weapons bristling from every angle. Blue banners snapped in the hot wind. "No." Mari's voice was hollow. "No, they don't. They never send full units for a single target." Her comm crackled to life, a voice cold and clipped. "10th Blade Mari, report position." She fumbled for the comm at her belt. "Sector 7-9, target located. Preparing for negative. New orders. Clear the kill zone. Full sweep authorized." "I don't understand. I have the target contained." "Clear the zone, Mari. That's an order. You have 60 seconds." The comm went dead. Mari stared at it, then at Samuel, then at the collapsed rocks where 43 people waited in darkness. "They're not here for you," she whispered. Samuel shook his head. "They're here to make sure no one ever hears what those people know." "They wouldn't. My clan doesn't." "Your clan sent you alone so you wouldn't see this part." Another rumble. Closer now. The crawlers were moving, fanning out in a practice sweep formation. Mari could see the weapons rotating, targeting systems humming to life. From beneath the rocks, Ken's voice. "Mari, what's happening? Why do I hear engines?" Samuel stood, started walking toward the crevice entrance, a narrow gap in the collapsed stone barely wide enough for one person at a time. "Where are you going?" Mari demanded. "Inside, to be with them when it happens." "When what happens?" He looked back at her. His face was weathered and scarred, but his eyes were clear. Sad. When your commanders bury everyone in this crevice, your own people too, they won't. Then why are they here? Mari opened her mouth, closed it. Her comm crackled again. Mari, confirm clear and step back 300 meters. Bombardment commencing in 45 seconds. Her hands were numb. Commander, there are survivors in that structure. Kashari survivors. I'm requesting negative. Structure is compromised. Sweep authorized. Clear the zone. Final warning. The transmission ended with a click that sounded like a coffin closing. Samuel was halfway to the crevice entrance when Mari caught up with him. Stop. He did, turned. Go. You still have time. Shut up. She grabbed his arm. Her grip was iron. You've been here 15 years. You know this terrain. Tell me there's a way to stop this. Samuel studied her face, saw the decision forming there. Terrible and irreversible. There's a way, but it'll cost you everything. Tell me. He pulled a small device from his pack, battered metal, covered in sand. Mines. I placed them at the choke point where the crawlers have to funnel through. Remote detonator. He placed it in her hand. Enough explosive to collapse the ridge entrance. It'll seal the crevice, protect everyone inside, and trap us. That's how you stop a 15-year hunt. Mari stared at the detonator. Her thumb rested on the trigger guard. Not pressing, not yet, just feeling the weight of the choice. Her comm. 30 seconds. Weapons hot. Clear the zone or be considered hostile. She looked at the crawlers. Counted them. 12 vehicles. Maybe 50 soldiers. Her clan brothers and sisters. People she'd trained with, laughed with, bled with. She looked at Samuel, a human, the target she was supposed to kill. She looked at the rocks where people she'd thought were dead were holding their breath. Mari. Her commander's voice was different now, softer, almost gentle. Step aside, or be erased with the target. Her fingers shook on the detonator. They haven't come for justice, Samuel said quietly. They've come for silence. Mari's thumb moved to the trigger, then stopped. She looked at Samuel. Wait, we don't have time. They're going to fire either way. Her mind was racing now, tactical training kicking through the shock. If I blow the entrance, the survivors are safe, but we're trapped. But if the bombardment starts first, everyone dies. So we blow it now. No, we need to time it. She was thinking out loud, her voice picking up speed. The crawlers are in formation. When they fire, there'll be a 3-second delay while the rounds travel. If we detonate during that window, the debris from the collapse will intercept the bombardment. Maybe, if we're lucky. And if we're not, Mari's jaw set. Then we die with them instead of watching from a distance. She started toward the crevice entrance. Samuel caught her arm. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Why? She looked back at him. Her eyes were hard now. Decided. Because I've spent 15 years following orders without asking questions. And I just found out what that makes me. They moved together into the crevice. The entrance was a jagged tear in the rock, maybe 5 feet high and 3 feet wide at its narrowest point. Mari had to turn sideways to fit through, her armor scraping against stone. Samuel followed close behind, his pack catching on an outcrop. He wrenched it free without slowing. Inside, the crevice opened into a narrow channel that wound deeper into the collapsed ridge. The air was cooler but stale, thick with dust and the smell of unwashed bodies and fear. Emergency glow sticks were stuck to the walls at irregular intervals, casting everything in sickly green light. People emerged from the shadows. Blue-skinned Kashari, pale-skinned humans, children with mixed features, cobalt skin fading to dusky brown, or pale faces with the angular features of the northern clans. All of them thin, all of them scared, and all of them staring at Mari with expressions that ranged from hope to terror to confusion. A boy stepped forward, maybe 9 years old. His skin was the same deep blue as Mari's, and his eyes, Mari knew those eyes, had seen them every day for the first 12 years of her life. Ken, her voice cracked. The boy nodded, tears already streaming down his face. They told us you were dead. They said the humans killed you when you tried to protect the settlement. Mari dropped to her knees in front of him. Her rifle clattered to the stone floor. Ken, I thought we buried you. We buried all of you. After the raid, they showed us bodies, an older voice said. They showed you bodies, not our bodies. An elderly Kashari woman pushed through the crowd. Her face was a map of wrinkles, her hair gone pure white, but she moved with the rigid posture of former military. Mari recognized her instantly. "Commander Sivan?" "Former commander." The woman's smile was bitter. "I've been dead for 7 years. Officially, I don't understand." A rumble shook the crevice. Dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere deeper in the darkness, a child started crying. Samuel checked his chrono. 20 seconds. Mari stood, retrieving her rifle. "Everyone get back, as far from the entrance as you can go." "What's happening?" Ken's hand clutched at her armor. "Are they coming for us?" Mari looked down at him, wanted to lie, couldn't. Yes. Sivan was already moving, herding people deeper into the crevice with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before. "You heard her. Move. Now." The crowd flowed backward like a retreating tide. Parents scooped up children. The elderly helped each other over loose rocks. Within seconds, the first 50 feet of the crevice was clear. Mari and Samuel stayed at the entrance. She held the detonator in her right hand. Her left held her rifle. Samuel crouched beside a gap in the rocks, peering out at the desert beyond. 10 seconds, he said. "They're locking targeting." Mari could hear it now, the high-pitched whine of energy weapons charging, the grinding of motors as the crawler's main guns elevated. Her comm crackled. "Final warning, clear the..." She ripped the comm off her belt and threw it into the sand outside. 5 seconds. Mari's thumb rested on the trigger. Her heart was trying to punch through her chest. Every instinct she'd been trained to follow was screaming at her to stop, to obey, to trust her commanders. She thought about Riva, her cousin, dead for 3 years, except she wasn't dead at all. She thought about Ken, about all the children huddled in the darkness behind her. She thought about 15 years of lies. 3 seconds. The whine peaked. Multiple launchers. Mari could picture it. A full saturation bombardment, designed to collapse the entire ridge section. Overkill for a single target, unless the target wasn't a single person at all. 2. She heard the launch. Multiple thumps, overlapping. The sound of ordnance leaving the tubes. "Now!" Samuel shouted. Mari pressed the trigger. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the world exploded. The mines detonated in sequence, a chain of blasts running along the ridge's weak points. Stone cracked with sounds like bone breaking. Massive slabs of rock shifted, tilted, came crashing down. The entrance collapsed inward, massive chunks of stone slamming together like teeth closing. The gap Samuel had been watching through vanished in a spray of pulverized rock. Then the bombardment hit. The impact was muffled by tons of stone, but Mari felt it in her bones. A series of crushing thuds that shook the entire crevice. Dust exploded through the air in choking clouds. The glow sticks flickered and died. Somewhere in the darkness, someone screamed. Mari couldn't see, couldn't breathe. The dust was in her mouth, her nose, her lungs. She was on the ground but couldn't remember falling. Her ears rang with a high-pitched whine that drowned out everything else. A hand found hers in the darkness. Squeezed. Samuel. She squeezed back. The shaking went on forever, or maybe just seconds. Time had lost meaning in the black, choking dark. Finally it stopped. Silence. The kind that pressed against eardrums like water at depth. Then sounds started filtering back. Coughing, crying, someone calling out names in the darkness, checking for wounded. A glow stick flickered on, then another. Emergency lights coming back online one by one. Mari pushed herself up. Her whole body felt bruised. Her armor had protected her from the worst of it, but she could feel cuts on her face and hands where rock splinters had found exposed skin. Samuel was next to her, sitting with his back against the wall. Blood ran from a cut above his eye, but he was breathing steady. Their eyes met in the green light. Neither of them spoke. What was there to say? Sivan appeared out of the dust, moving through the crowd with practiced efficiency. Head count, everyone sound off by section. Names started coming back, responses filtering through the darkness. A few injuries. Nothing critical, miraculous really, or maybe just good timing. Mari stood slowly, tested her weight on each leg. Everything worked. She turned toward where the entrance had been, a solid wall of stone. No gaps, no light bleeding through. just tons of collapsed ridge sealing them inside the crevice, like insects in amber. "We're trapped," someone said. "Just a statement of fact." "We're alive," Sivan countered. Her voice was iron. "Which means we won the day." Mari turned to face the crowd. 43 pairs of eyes looked back at her, some hostile, some grateful, all frightened. Ken pushed through to the front. "What happens now?" "Good question." Mari looked at Samuel. "How long can we survive in here?" "Water seepage in a few places, supplies for maybe 2 days with rationing." Before the weight of that could settle, a sound cut through the chamber. A grinding, deep in the crevice. Stone shifting against stone, not settling. Something deliberate. Everyone froze. "That's not natural," Samuel said quietly. His hand went to his sidearm. The grinding came again, closer, accompanied by a smell that made Mari's skin crawl. Sharp, chemical, like ozone mixed with something burning. Wrong. "Everyone up," Sivan ordered. "We move deeper. Now." No one argued. They'd survived the bombardment. They wouldn't survive sitting still while something moved toward them in the dark. The group organized itself quickly. Elderly and injured in the middle, able-bodied adults on the outer edges. Children clustered together, holding hands in chains that wouldn't break even if they stumbled. Samuel took point with a glow stick and his battered scanner. Mari brought up the rear, rifle ready, her eyes constantly scanning the shadows behind them. They moved deeper into the crevice. The passage narrowed as they went, forcing them into single file. The walls pressed close on either side, rough stone that scraped against armor and clothes. The ceiling dropped lower, until even the children had to duck their heads. The air grew thicker, harder to breathe. Mari found herself counting her breaths. In for 4, out for 4, trying to stay calm. That chemical smell was getting stronger, and underneath it, something else. A metallic tang that reminded her of blood and spent ammunition. Behind her, someone whispered, "What if we get stuck?" No one answered. They walked for what felt like hours, but was probably only 40 minutes. The passage twisted and turned, branching off into side tunnels that led to darkness. Samuel ignored most of them, following some logic Mari couldn't decipher. The smell was overwhelming now. Mari's eyes watered. Several of the children were coughing, trying to muffle the sound against their hands. Finally, Samuel stopped. Ahead, the passage opened into a larger space. The glow stick light didn't reach the far walls. "This is as far as I've mapped," Samuel said. His voice echoed strangely. "Beyond this, I don't know what we'll find." "Only one way to find out," Sivan said. Samuel stepped into the space. The others followed, spreading out as the passage opened up. Mari came last, sweeping her rifle across the darkness. The chamber was massive, maybe 50 feet across, with a ceiling that soared up into shadows. The floor was relatively flat, smoothed by water over millennia. At the far end, 3 passages led deeper into the rock. And in the center of the chamber, something that made Mari's breath catch. Equipment. Not ancient, not abandoned. Recent. Portable generators, still warm to the touch. Communication gear with indicator lights blinking in the darkness. Supply crates stacked and labeled with military precision. A folding table covered in maps and data pads, their screens still glowing faintly. Blue clan markings on everything. The chemical stink was stronger here now. Ozone, hot metal, burned lubricant. The same wrong smell that had chased them through the crevice. Not a creature in the dark. Machines. People. What the hell is this? Mari moved closer, her rifle up, her mind racing through possibilities and coming up empty on all of them. Samuel was already at the table, scanning the maps with shaking hands. His face went pale in the green light. "Samuel!" He looked up at her. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. "These are supply lines, distribution routes." He pointed to notations on the maps, his finger tracing routes that crossed and recrossed territorial boundaries. "This is where your commanders have been moving weapons, food, medical supplies." "So? We have forward bases all over the sector. Look at the destinations." Mari leaned over the map, followed the marked routes with her eyes. Her stomach turned to ice. The supplies weren't going to Kashari settlements. They were going to human territories, to settlements that were supposed to be enemy zones, deep into regions that her people had been told were hostile, unreachable, deadly. And the routes were marked as active for the past 8 years. Not days, not months, years. I don't understand. Don't you? Samuel's laugh was bitter, broken. Your commanders have been running supplies to human settlements while telling you we're the enemy, while sending you out to hunt and kill. My commanders have been doing the same thing in reverse. The war isn't real, Mari. It never was. It's just theater. A show to keep both sides distracted while the people in charge... A sound cut him off. Metal on stone. Deliberate. Coming from one of the 3 passages at the far end of the chamber. Footsteps. Multiple people. Armed from the sound of gear rattling with each step. Everyone froze. Samuel killed his glow stick. Plunged the chamber into darkness, broken only by the faint glow of the equipment displays. Mari's heart hammered. She couldn't see. Could only hear. Boots on stone getting closer. Multiple people. At least 6, maybe more. Armed and moving with military precision. A light flickered on, harsh and white. A tactical flashlight, military grade, cutting through the darkness like a blade. It swept across the chamber, across the huddled survivors pressing against the walls, across the supply crates with their incriminating markings. Stopped on Mari, a voice from behind the light. Well, this is unexpected. The voice was familiar, too familiar. Mari's blood went cold, her whole body going rigid with recognition and disbelief. She knew that voice, had trained with that voice, had shared barracks with that voice for 3 years during advanced combat training, had trusted that voice with her life on a dozen operations. Wraith? Her own voice sounded distant in her ears, like someone else was speaking. The figure stepped into the light, blue-skinned, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing heavy tactical armor that marked him as special operations. The kind of gear only the elite units got, with integrated systems and reinforced plating that could stop anything short of anti-armor rounds. Wraith Kashari, her clan brother, her friend. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Hello, Mari, we've been looking for you. Behind him, more figures emerged from the passage. 6 of them moving with the coordinated precision of a well-trained team. All armed, all Kashari, all pointing their weapons at the survivors with the casual efficiency of people who'd done this many times before. But their armor was different. Customized, stripped of clan markings, painted in colors that wouldn't show up on standard scanners. The armor of people who operated outside official channels. The armor of people who didn't exist. Wraith, what's going on? What are you doing here? My job. He moved into the chamber with the easy confidence of someone who knew he controlled the situation completely. Protecting our supply lines, making sure no one finds out what we've been moving through these tunnels. The supplies going to human territories is above your clearance level. His smile widened, but there was no warmth in it, no humanity. Was above your clearance level, but now you've seen too much. All of you. Samuel stepped forward, putting himself between Wraith's team and the survivors. You're part of it, the ones orchestrating everything. The war isn't the problem, Reed. It's the solution. Wraith's voice was flat, matter-of-fact, like he was explaining basic tactics to a recruit. It keeps both sides unified, focused. Without a common enemy, both our peoples would tear themselves apart over resources and territory and old grudges that go back generations. The war gives everyone something bigger to fight for, something that matters. And you get to play God, Samuel said quietly, deciding who lives and who dies, who gets to know the truth and who stays in the dark. Someone has to make those decisions. People who understand what's at stake. What about what they understand? Mari asked. Her hand was inching toward her rifle, moving slowly, carefully. They know you're murderers, that both governments are built on lies and manipulation. You think that knowledge dies with them? Information only matters if it spreads, and dead people don't talk, don't tell stories, don't cause problems. The flashlight beam was close now, maybe 30 meters. Close enough that Mari could see shadows moving behind it. Wraith's team, advancing in tactical formation. This is your last chance, Mari. Stand down, drop your weapons. You're still one of us. We can explain this. Say Reed took you hostage. Say he forced you to help him. You fought back. You escaped. You're a hero. You go home with honors and commendations. I'd rather be a traitor. Wraith shook his head slowly. The truth is whatever we say it is. And right now the truth is that 10th Blade Mari died in the line of duty, killed by the terrorist Samuel Reed while bravely protecting innocent civilians. He raised his weapon, the barrel tracking smoothly to center on her chest. And along with 43 other unfortunate casualties of this terrible, endless war. "You're going to kill all of us?" Sivan's voice cut through the tension, cold and hard. "Your own people? Children? Former people? You died years ago, Commander. This is just making it official, cleaning up loose ends." His tone didn't change, didn't waver. Nothing personal, just necessary. His team moved into formation. Professional, efficient. Weapons trained on the survivors with the practiced ease of people who'd done this before. Too many times before. Ken was shaking. Mari could see him in her peripheral vision, pressed against Sivan's side, his eyes huge with terror. The same terror on every face around her. These people had survived years in hiding, had endured hunger and fear, and the crushing knowledge that everyone they loved thought they were dead. Had found hope again when Mari and Samuel showed up. And now it was going to end here, in this chamber, with bullets and silence and bodies that would never be found. No, not like this. Never like this. Mari's hand closed around her rifle. "Don't," Wraith said. His weapon snapped up, finger already tightening on the trigger. "You're good, Mary. One of the best I ever trained with. But you're one person with 43 civilians to protect. You move, some of them die. Maybe all of them. This ends one way. Don't make it worse." "Maybe." Samuel's voice came from the darkness behind Wraith's team. He'd moved somehow, circled around in the chaos without anyone noticing. "But it won't be quick." Wraith spun, his team pivoting with him. Samuel stood at the entrance to the leftmost passage just outside the cone of their flashlight beams. He had something in his hand. Small, cylindrical, instantly recognizable. A grenade. "Smoke," Samuel said quietly. "Thermal masking compound. You fire, you'll be shooting blind. You'll hit each other as much as us. You'll die too. Probably." Samuel's thumb rested on the primer, his face carved from stone in the shadows. "But you'll lose people. And you'll have to explain to your commanders why this simple cleanup operation turned into a firefight. Why there are bodies of your own men down here. Why the scene doesn't match your report." He paused. "So here's the deal. You let us walk out of here. We go deeper into the tunnels. You report that you found the chamber empty. Everyone lives. Everyone goes home." Wraith's laugh was harsh, echoing off the stone walls. "And you think we'll just let you disappear? Let you walk away with everything you know? I think you want this to be clean. No bodies, no evidence, no awkward questions. Just another mystery in the desert." Samuel's eyes were flat. Dead. The eyes of someone who'd already made peace with dying. "I've been giving you mysteries for 15 years, Wraith. One more won't matter." The standoff stretched, seconds ticking by like years. Wraith's team was shifting nervously, weapons tracking between Samuel and the survivors, trying to cover both threats at once. Their formation was cracking, spreading too thin. Wraith himself was calculating, his eyes moving between Samuel and Mari, weighing options, running scenarios. Mari used the distraction. She moved fast. Faster than she'd ever moved in training. Faster than she'd thought possible. Grabbed Ken with one hand and Sivan with the other and shoved them toward the leftmost passage, the one where Samuel stood. Shouted at the top of her lungs, "Move! Everyone move now!" The survivors broke and ran. Samuel threw the grenade. It detonated midair with a soft whump. Smoke exploded outward. Thick gray clouds laced with thermal disruptors that would scramble targeting systems. Night vision, heat sensors. Everything. Wraith's team fired. Muzzle flashes lit up the smoke like lightning in storm clouds. Bullets sparked off stone walls, ricocheted with high-pitched whines. Someone screamed. Mari couldn't tell if it was one of the survivors or one of Wraith's men. The sound was swallowed by more gunfire, more screaming, the chaos of combat in confined space. Mari fired back, providing cover as the survivors poured into the passage. Not aiming, couldn't aim in the smoke, just firing in the general direction of Wraith's team. Keeping their heads down, buying seconds. Her rifle kicked against her shoulder. The sound was deafening. Someone grabbed her arm, Samuel materializing out of the smoke. "Go! I'll cover!" Together or not at all. She kept firing. They backed toward the passage together, firing in alternating bursts. The smoke was thinning. Mari could see silhouettes moving through it now. Wraith's team advancing, using the walls for cover, professional and methodical despite the chaos. Then they were in the passage and running. The tunnel was narrow again, single file. The survivors ahead of them were moving as fast as they could, but it wasn't fast enough. The elderly stumbled over loose rocks. Children cried, their voices echoing off stone. The sound of pursuit was right behind them. Boots pounding, gear rattling, Wraith's voice shouting orders. "Faster!" Mari shouted, her voice raw. A bullet cracked past her head, struck the wall 6 inches from her face and sent rock chips flying. One of them sliced across her cheek. She felt blood, warm and wet, running down to her jaw. They were being herded, driven deeper into the tunnels, away from any possible escape route, toward... What? What was Wraith driving them toward? The passage twisted sharply, opened into another chamber, smaller than the last, maybe 30 feet across, and there was only one exit visible on the far side. A bottleneck, a trap. "Stop!" Sivan's voice cut through the panic like a blade. "Everyone stop!" The survivors skidded to a halt, pressed themselves against the walls, breathing hard, eyes wide with fear. Mari and Samuel brought up the rear, weapons ready. Behind them in the passage they'd just left, the sounds of pursuit had stopped. Complete silence. "Why did they stop?" Someone whispered, their voice shaking. Samuel's face was grim. He understood before Mari did. "Because they don't need to chase us anymore. They know where this tunnel leads." "Where?" He pointed at the single exit from the chamber. "Dead end. 50 meters that way. Solid rock. I checked it weeks ago. No way out." The silence that fell was absolute, crushing. They'd run straight into a trap, been herded like animals to slaughter. Ken started crying, quiet sobs that he tried to muffle against Sivan's armor, his small body shaking. The old commander held him, her face carved from stone, her eyes distant, seeing other battles, other defeats, other moments when everything had gone wrong. Mari checked her ammunition. Half a magazine, maybe 15 rounds. Not enough, never enough. Samuel was checking the walls already, running his hands over the stone with desperate intensity. Looking for something, anything. A crack, a gap, a miracle. "There's always another way," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "Has to be. Always something." His hand stopped, pressed flat against a section of wall that looked exactly like all the others. "What?" Mari asked, moving close. "Airflow. Feel it?" She pressed her hand next to his, felt it, subtle, barely there, but real. A current of cool air flowing from somewhere beyond the stone, from somewhere else. There's a gap, small one, but if there's airflow, there's a connection to something bigger. These tunnels are old, natural formation, expanded by water and tectonic shifts. They connect. We just need to find where. He pulled out his scanner, started mapping the wall section by section. "If we can find the weak point, we might be able to..." "We don't have time," Sivan said flatly. "They'll be coming any minute, maybe less." "Then we make time." Mari moved to block the entrance they'd come through, took up a position that would give her the best field of fire. "I'll hold them here. You find the way out." "One person against 7? Samuel didn't look up from his scanner, but his voice was tight. "That's not a fight, Mari. That's suicide. Then join me, or get these people out of here. Your choice." Samuel was silent for a long moment, the scanner's soft beeping the only sound. Then, "Ken, come here." The boy looked up with red-rimmed eyes, his face streaked with tears and dust. "I need you to take this." Samuel pressed the scanner into the boy's hands, showed him the display. "You see this reading here? That spike? That's airflow. You follow it along the wall. When the reading jumps, really spikes high, that's where the gap is, where the wall is thinnest. You understand?" Ken nodded, still sniffling, but focusing on the scanner with desperate intensity. "Good. Take everyone to that dead end I mentioned. Find the gap using this. Then start digging. Use rocks, use your hands, use whatever you can find. Don't stop until you break through to the other side." "What if we can't?" The boy's voice was small, frightened. Samuel's smile was sad, gentle. Then at least you tried. At least you fought. Now go. Run. Sivan took charge immediately, herding the survivors toward the far exit with sharp commands and practiced efficiency. Ken went with them, clutching the scanner like a lifeline, his small fingers already working the controls. They moved quickly now, motivated by fear and desperation and the thinnest thread of hope. Within seconds, the chamber was empty except for Mari and Samuel. They took positions on either side of the entrance, using the walls for cover. The tunnel beyond was dark, silent, waiting. "How long do you think we can hold them?" Mari asked quietly. "Long enough." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got." Samuel checked his pistol, old, battered, but clean and functional. 8 rounds left. "You?" 15. Maybe a few less if I missed some shots back there. "So we make every shot count." They waited. Minutes stretched like hours. The silence was worse than combat. Every second another chance to imagine what was coming, to feel fear crawling up the spine. Then, movement in the darkness. A flashlight beam sweeping across the tunnel walls, painting everything in harsh white light. Wraith's voice echoed through the passage. "Reed! Mari! This doesn't have to end badly. Come out. Talk to us. We can work something out. Find a solution that keeps everyone alive." "Like you worked something out for Riva," Mari shouted back, her voice hard. "For all the others? For every person you've erased over the years? Casualties of war. Regrettable, but necessary. You know how this works, Mari. You've been a soldier. Sometimes hard choices have to be made for the greater good. They were children. They were compromises we couldn't afford. Information we couldn't let spread." The beam swept closer, maybe 40 meters out now. "You still don't understand, do you? The war isn't the problem, Mary. It's the solution. It keeps both sides unified, focused. Without a common enemy, both our peoples would tear themselves apart over resources and territory and old grudges that go back generations. The war gives everyone something bigger to fight for, something that matters." "And you get to play God," Samuel said quietly, "deciding who lives and who dies, who gets to know the truth and who stays in the dark. Someone has to make those decisions, people who understand what's at stake." "What about what they understand?" Mari gestured toward where the survivors had gone, even though no one could see the gesture in the darkness. "They know you're murderers, that both governments are built on lies and manipulation. You think that knowledge dies with them? Information only matters if it spreads, and dead people don't talk, don't tell stories, don't cause problems." The flashlight beam was close now, maybe 30 meters, close enough that Mari could see shadows moving behind it. Wraith's team, advancing in tactical formation. "This is your last chance, Mari. Stand down, drop your weapons. You're still one of us. We can explain this. Say Reed took you hostage. Say he forced you to help him. You fought back. You escaped. You're a hero. You go home with honors and commendations. I'd rather be a traitor." Wraith sighed. The sound echoed strangely in the tunnel. "So be it. I'm sorry it has to end this way. You were a good soldier, one of the best. Even when the orders are wrong, especially then, because that's what separates soldiers from terrorists, from anarchists, from people who think they know better than the system." His voice hardened, losing all pretense of friendliness. "Last chance for you too, Mari. I'm giving you one more opportunity because we trained together, because I respect what you were. But that opportunity ends in 10 seconds. Mari's finger tightened on the trigger. "Then I guess we're done talking." The attack came fast. Flash grenades first, 3 of them, rolling down the tunnel like silver eggs, detonating in sequence with blinding white bursts that turned the darkness into searing light. Mari squeezed her eyes shut but still saw after images dancing across her vision. Ghosts burned into her retinas. Then gunfire. Concentrated, professional, walking up the walls toward their positions in a pattern designed to flush them out or pin them down. Mari and Samuel returned fire. Not aiming, couldn't aim blind, just shooting into the white haze where the muzzle flashes bloomed, trying to keep Wraith's team back, trying to buy more time. The sound was deafening in the confined space. Each shot a physical hammer blow against her ears, against her skull. Mari heard someone scream, couldn't tell if it was her own voice or someone else's. Everything was white light and thunder, and the smell of cordite. The gunfire stopped. Her magazine clicked empty. She dropped it with shaking hands, slammed in her last spare, chambered around with a motion so practiced it was automatic. Samuel's rifle clicked empty beside her. He dropped it, drew his sidearm, that battered pistol that looked like it had been through hell, and kept going. 8 rounds. "This is it," Mari said. Her voice sounded distant, calm, like she was commenting on the weather. "No more ammunition after this. Then we make them count." Footsteps in the tunnel, getting closer. Wraith's team advancing behind the cover of the flash grenades, using the lingering brightness to mask their approach. Mari leaned around the corner, snapped off 3 rounds at the nearest silhouette, pulled back as return fire chipped the wall where her head had been, sending stone fragments slicing through the air. She saw one man fall, saw the dark spray of blood against the tunnel wall. 7 became 6, but 6 was still too many. 6 professionals with automatic weapons and unlimited ammunition against 2 people with barely enough bullets to matter. Samuel fired twice. Careful shots, aimed shots. She heard a cry of pain from the tunnel. 6 became 5. 4 rounds left, he said calmly. Mari fired again. Missed. Fired twice more. Saw another figure stumble. 5 became 4. Her rifle clicked empty. No more magazines. No more options. She drew her sidearm. 15 rounds. Added to Samuel's 4 remaining bullets. 19 rounds total against 4 trained operators with full automatic weapons. The math wasn't good. A grenade bounced into the chamber. Not flash this time. Not smoke. Fragmentation. "Down!" Samuel tackled her behind the largest rock outcrop in the chamber, his body covering hers. The grenade detonated with a flat crack that sucked all the air out of the space. Metal fragments screamed through the chamber, embedding in stone, ricocheting off walls with high-pitched whines. Something hot sliced across Mari's shoulder. Pain bright and sharp, followed by the warm wetness of blood. Her armor had saved her from the worst of it, but she could feel multiple cuts, multiple impacts. Her whole body felt like it had been beaten with hammers. Samuel was up first, firing over the outcrop. 3 shots. 2. 1. Click. Empty. He threw the pistol at the nearest figure, advancing through the smoke. It bounced off the man's helmet harmlessly, clattered to the stone floor. Mari fired her remaining rounds, controlled, careful, making each shot count because there was nothing else left to do. She saw one more man fall, saw another stumble, clutching his leg. 4 became 3 became 2. Her slide locked back. Empty. They were out of ammunition, out of options, out of time. Wraith emerged from the smoke, his weapon trained on them. 1 soldier flanked him on the left, 1 on the right. All of them battered but functional, all of them pointing weapons at Mari and Samuel. "It's over," Wraith said simply. Mari and Samuel stood slowly. No point hiding now. No point in anything except facing the end with whatever dignity they had left. They stood shoulder to shoulder, facing down the weapons, facing death. "Any last words?" Wraith asked. There was no mockery in his voice now, no cruelty, just exhaustion, just a soldier doing a job he'd done too many times. "Yeah." Mari met his eyes, held them. "You're going to lose. We already won. This is just cleanup. No, you just don't know you've lost yet, because those survivors are going to get out of here. They're going to tell people what they know. And all your careful control, all your manipulation, all the lies you've built over decades, it's going to fall apart, piece by piece, until there's nothing left. Bold assumption that they'll escape from a dead end with tons of rock in their way. I know they will, because they have something you don't. What's that? A reason to survive that actually matters. That's worth dying for, worth fighting for." She smiled. It felt strange on her face. Free. You're fighting to maintain control. They're fighting for truth, and truth always wins eventually. Always. Wraith's smile faded. His jaw tightened. His finger moved to the trigger. A sound stopped him. From deeper in the tunnels, from the direction the survivors had gone. A crack, sharp and clear. Then another. Then a rumble that grew and grew, building like thunder, shaking the stone beneath their feet until the whole chamber was trembling. Stone breaking, collapsing, opening. Wraith's face went pale. "What did you—" "They found the gap," Samuel said quietly. His voice was filled with satisfaction, with triumph. "And they made it bigger. They're through." The rumbling intensified. The floor tilted. Wraith and his team stumbled, trying to keep their footing, their weapons wavering. Dust began to pour from the ceiling. Small rocks, then larger ones. The chamber was coming apart. "Fall back," Wraith shouted. "The whole section's collapsing. Move." His team retreated into the smoke, into the tunnel they'd come from. Wraith lingered for 1 second longer, his weapon still trained on Mari. Their eyes met. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes, it is." Mari's voice was iron. "Final. You just don't know it yet." Wraith vanished into the smoke. Mari and Samuel ran toward the far exit, the one leading to where the survivors had gone, where hope waited. The tunnel was collapsing behind them, ceiling coming down in massive chunks, floor cracking and tilting like the deck of a sinking ship. They ran through a gauntlet of falling stone, jumping over gaps that opened suddenly, ducking under slabs that crashed down inches behind them. The air was thick with dust. Mari couldn't see, could barely breathe. Just kept running, one hand on the wall for guidance, the other reaching back to grab Samuel's hand. They ran together, holding on to each other, refusing to let go. Ahead, light. Not glow stick green, but natural daylight, streaming through a gap in the stone. They burst out of the tunnel into blinding brightness. A valley spread before them, narrow, hidden between two ridges, filled with scrub vegetation and open air, and the most beautiful sky Mari had ever seen. The survivors were there, all 43 of them, battered, bleeding, covered in dust and blood and exhaustion, but alive, alive. Behind them, the tunnel collapsed completely with a roar like the end of the world. Tons of stone sealing the passage, cutting them off from Wraith and his team, cutting them off from the war, cutting them off from the lies. Mari dropped to her knees. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. Every muscle was screaming. Her shoulder burned where the shrapnel had cut her. Her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't make them stop. Samuel collapsed next to her, his breath coming in ragged gasps. They were alive. Impossibly, miraculously, inexplicably alive. Ken ran to them, throwing his small arms around Mari's neck. "You did it! You saved us! You saved us," Mari corrected, her voice hoarse and cracked. "You found the way out. You broke through. This was you." "We all did," Sivan said. The old commander was helping the injured, her hands steady despite the blood covering them, despite everything they'd been through. Together, that's how we survived, how we'll keep surviving. Mari looked at the survivors, looked at their faces, human and Kashari, young and old, all of them marked by what they had endured but still standing, still fighting. She looked at the valley, at the scrub vegetation clinging to life in harsh soil, at the sky so blue it hurt to look at. Then she looked back at the collapsed tunnel, at the tons of stone that separated them from their old lives, from the comfortable lies, from the war that had defined everything. "What now?" Samuel asked quietly. Good question. They were fugitives now, traitors to both sides, hunted by the very people who were supposed to protect them. Everyone they'd known would be told they were dead, or worse, that they were terrorists, criminals, enemies of everything good and right. But they were free, and they knew the truth, and that had to count for something. "We survive," Mari said finally, pushing herself to her feet with effort, testing her injured leg. "We find anyone who'll listen. We tell them everything, every detail, every lie, every body. They won't believe us," Samuel said. But he was standing too, testing his weight, checking his injuries. "Most of them won't want to believe us. Some will. That's all it takes to start." She looked at him, saw understanding there. Partnership, alliance. The war is built on secrets, on both sides not talking to each other, on everyone believing what they're told without questioning. We just need to expose enough secrets that the foundation starts to crack, that people start asking questions, start demanding answers. That's a hell of a fight, a long fight, maybe an impossible fight. "Yeah," she extended her hand, "but we're good at fighting." Samuel looked at her hand. then at her face. Then he smiled, really smiled, for the first time since she'd met him, and took it. They shook. Two soldiers from opposite sides of a manufactured war, united by the truth they'd uncovered together, by the people they'd saved, by the lies they'd escaped. Where do we start? Ken asked, looking up at them with those huge eyes that had seen far too much for someone so young. Mari looked at the survivors, at the valley, at the open desert beyond, stretching endless and hostile, but also free. With the 10th grave, she said quietly. They reached a settlement 3 days later, small, independent, one of the few places that existed in the gaps between territories, where neither government claimed authority, where people lived by their own rules and asked few questions about where travelers came from. The people there listened when Mari and Samuel told their story, listened to the survivors confirm every detail, looked at the evidence, the maps they'd managed to grab from the supply chamber, the data pads, the clan insignia from people who were supposed to be dead. Not all of them believed. Many dismissed it as conspiracy theory, as the ravings of traumatized refugees trying to make sense of tragedy, as propaganda from one side trying to undermine the other. But some did believe, and those some spread the word. The story moved through underground channels, border towns, refugee camps, back rooms of barracks. First came whispers, then faces in the crowd holding up names of the officially dead. Protests flickered to life and spread, small, then larger. Recruiters found themselves shouting over questions no one had dared ask before. Soldiers on both sides started comparing stories, supply logs, the lies they'd swallowed. The governments tried to crush it. Arrests, smear campaigns, new enemies on the news. But the questions didn't go away. The war machine was still moving, but now every gear was grinding. The war didn't end overnight. Wars never do. The governments tried to hold on, tried to discredit Mari and Samuel and the survivors, tried to present alternative explanations that would preserve the narrative. But once the doubt was planted, once people started questioning, the whole structure began to crumble. Both sides had built their power on the war, on the fear of the other, on the need for protection and security and unity against a common threat. When the threat turned out to be manufactured, when the enemy turned out to be working with your own leaders, when the casualties turned out to be deliberate rather than tragic, everything changed, slowly, painfully, with setbacks and violence and desperate attempts by those in power to maintain control. But it changed. In a hidden valley between two ridges, Samuel Reed stood at a gravesite. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of gold and orange. The air was cooling. Night would come soon, but for now there was light. Not 10 graves anymore. One, a single marker driven into the sand, made from a broken piece of blue armor and a battered human weapon, lashed together with cord salvaged from their gear. The two pieces crossed like a promise, like a symbol, like proof that opposite sides could stand together. Mari stood beside him, Ken on her other side, holding her hand. The boy was taller now, growing despite the hardships. Sivan behind them, standing at attention despite her exhaustion. And all the others, the 43 survivors who'd become witnesses, who'd become fighters for a truth that both sides wanted to keep buried. They stood in silence for a long moment, looking at the marker, at what it represented. The grave wasn't empty anymore. They'd buried something in it over the past months. Not a body, not a person, but something that needed to die. The lies, the manipulation, the willingness to sacrifice innocence for power. The machinery of war that ground people into dust while those in charge profited. All of it symbolically laid to rest in the sand. 15 years of hunters ended in one grave, Samuel said quietly, his voice carrying in the desert wind. But the truth they buried crawled back into the light. Mari nodded, reached out and squeezed his hand. They stood together and watched the sun sink toward the horizon, a blazing disk that painted the sand in shades of fire, that promised darkness but also another dawn. Tomorrow would bring new battles, new challenges, new attempts to silence them, to discredit them, to make them disappear. There were rumors that Wraith's unit was still hunting them, that orders had been issued for their capture or elimination, that powerful people on both sides wanted them dead before they could do any more damage. But they'd survived this long, and they had allies now. people who believed them, people who were willing to fight alongside them. The war might not be over. The systems that had created it might still be fighting for survival, but today they'd won something more important than a battle. Today the truth was free, and that was enough.